Number one, 75% of suicides are guys. Number two, erectile dysfunction is actually, unless it's like a psychological or partner thing, if it's just like erectile dysfunction, guy in his 50s might have an issue with their heart, like a very good possibility it's a precursor to heart disease, just because vasculature in your heart, very similar to your penis. And if one's clogged, the other one is probably clogging. Number three, I think over 55% of men over fucking 20 years old have high blood pressure.
Welcome to the Building Men podcast. I'm your host, Dennis Meralda.
Back in the studio. What's up, brother?
What's going on?
So we are joined today by Patrick Alonso. Patrick is one of the co-hosts of the Men's Health Unscripted podcast. He runs the same handle on Instagram. I met Patrick right after Memorial Day, and we just started shooting the shit about what he's doing. He's in this really cool space that I know you're going to love, and I know the audience is going to love our conversation. So welcome to the Building Men podcast, Patrick. Thanks for being here, my man.
I appreciate that, guys. And Dennis, I met you, like you said, before Memorial Day. Anthony, it's a pleasure meeting you today.
Great to meet you too, my man.
I can't wait to rip it on some men's health. I love your intro. Physically, mentally, spiritually, it's like it's all got to be a holistic approach, and I think we might drive that home today.
Oh, we definitely will, and we're total proponents of that whole infinity logo, that synergistic way that everything works in unison together in a holistic fashion. So we're definitely we're on the right track. You're in the right spot here if you're listening to this podcast with Patrick Alonso. So Patrick, tell us a little bit about how you start your story wherever you want, but bring us to a spot where you decided to create this movement around men's health. And you're not doing it in any bullshit way. You're like peeling back the layers, like, all right, this is what's under the covers. I don't fucking care. You know, we got to take a look at this. We got to be real. And that's what you're doing right now.
100%. And I guess just to get down to it, when I think about where men's health started was being in pharmacy school. You've got just this huge health discrepancy in the world for guys. And so I'm starting to like sit here and think like, this is a real niche market. And then you're starting to see so many products and things come out for guys. You have for Hims, you have Blue Chews, you have all this stuff. And so I think it's a great space to be in right now because for so many years it's been taboo to talk about men's health. And so now it's like, we're kind of getting, a little bit of recognition, and I'm really excited about that. And so I guess I heard that a while back, Betty Ford was like, she was the first lady to say breast on TV. And so I'm sitting here when I'm getting ready to start Men's Health, and I'm saying to myself, I can't wait to just be the first guy to say prostate on TV. And people are like, oh shit, that guy said that.
Right.
But I love it because it's a little bit taboo. There's things that you can talk about that might be equivalent to women. So if a woman says like vaginal health, people are like, oh, okay. But if a guy says I have erectile dysfunction, he's like almost shunned, or maybe he feels bad about it kind of thing, or they think, somebody thinks differently of them. And it's just such a weird dichotomy that we live in that space.
So you're providing an opportunity. And when you say men's health, initially, I think about growing up, and it was, you have a picture of what, a healthy man looked like. And it was more like the Men's Health magazine, the cover of the magazines. That's where your mind initially goes when my mind goes when I hear that. So it's, you need to, have broad shoulders, have a six pack, have, I'm thinking like Jason Momoa, like this long flowing hair and shit like that too, where you're saying, let's be real about what men's health really means.
Absolutely. When you think about guys like that, they have a lot of money, and it's easy to work out all day, and just the time is there, or you're just incredibly dedicated. You guys know in building this podcast, it takes a lot of time to really grow something, same thing that goes into the gym or whatever. And I want to tailor Men's Health Unscripted to the working man, guys that have families, your average everyday guy. I want to be just like kind of at the beginning of this, let's sit down and have a beer type of guys. But at the same time, maybe a little bit less beers.
Yeah.
And also making it comfortable to just, speak your mind and be spiritual. And it's okay for a guy to go do yoga or whatever the case may be. Let's feel a little bit more freedom in our bodies and our minds and in our souls and just like how we interact with people.
So bring us back a little bit. I mean, now that you tell us that you're going to be the man to, hold the prostate flag up in front of the country eventually in a national format, to your experience in school, your experience growing up, what was it? Pick out a couple points along your journey that you're like, this is where I want to head. We want to learn a little bit about why you decided to go in this direction.
Sure. So to start, probably the funniest part about it is pharmacy was probably the least likely path that anybody who knew me would have ever thought I would have ended up in. So you got that. And then watching the things that happened to my grandfather towards the end of his life were really instrumental because I didn't know anything about medicine. And then going into pharmacy school, I'm like, holy shit. He was really misinformed, or maybe ill-informed for like a healthcare professional talking to a 92-year-old man. Like there's a disconnect in knowledge there. And so being in school, making things relatable to people, giving people knowledge, and a lot of that factored into building this and just kind of like, I like teaching. I used to coach baseball back in the day. I'm just a teacher at heart, but I kind of want to do it my way. And I kind of want to make men's health fun. Because as of right now, I don't feel like it's fun. It's morbid. It kind of sucks. And guys like to have fun and kind of, hey, you learn something. Maybe we go kayaking as a group and we all talk. And you spent 4 hours with a group of people and opened up, and maybe you feel better about yourself, right? So the whole, just like this whole men's health adventure approach. And then I would have to say, honestly, where I started it, being in school, I started a men's health organization at school. I'm not going to mention the name because I don't want them to get mad at me for whatever, but I started doing a men's health kind of program. We were having fun, playing bingo, attracting people, fundraising, building something for the students to really get behind. And the administration kind of came in and was like, oh, you guys can't do the things that you're doing. Not that it wasn't about the men's health, but it was just like all the activities related to men's health. They just didn't want us to do it. And I just felt like, are you guys trying to shut us down and do a roundabout way? So I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to go do this by myself. Well, and with my business partner, Stephen.
Those damn administrators, I'll tell you what.
I know you're a principal.
Yeah, I was.
You're getting them all triggered now. Yeah.
So what did you do? It was like, how fast can you blow up a condom? What were the things that you weren't allowed to do?
No, it was just like, they were like, oh, bingo's gambling.
Oh, come on.
So finding ways to shut you down and just figuring out workarounds to be like, oh, you're not doing this. Like,
right. Yeah, so it was never like, oh, men's health, whatever. And it was never that related. They can't say that, but I snuck a logo as a red rocket in school. So, I mean, that was hilarious. They're like, oh, this new men's health organization. And I was like, it's a red rocket. And all these people didn't get the joke. And I'm just like, man, men's health is in sad shape.
Quick shout out to my dog, Bo, who's got the biggest red rocket you've ever seen. He's a Boston Terrier.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's like my forearm.
Well, relative to
Terrier,
it's
to his
crazy.
size.
Yeah, it's really nuts. He's,
little dog always packing. Like you think that big dogs are just doing it, the little dogs are just crushing it.
He is packing some heat.
Yeah. He doesn't know what to do with it. He didn't know how to handle that.
He has no idea.
I love what you were saying about, changing how you look at men's health and kind of how we go about it. Because I just know a lot of times people assume that there's only one way to skin a cat. There's this cookie cutter program, and it's the assumption that you have all these weights and you have access to a gym and you're going to go 6 days a week and you're going to plan all your meals out and meal prep and do all this stuff, versus what you do is meet people on their journey and figure out ways to do it and start small and then build on that, and it makes it more, it allows for more consistency over time and allows people to stick with it and, get used to that process versus jumping in. And then that's why people end up quitting halfway through and say, fuck it, this is too hard for me. I have too much going on. I don't have enough time, and all the excuses start to pile up after that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But those small steps, even a step is a kind of step in the right direction. And that's really difficult, but you do end up, just like you said, Anthony, you're on the right track. And I guess the best example is we interviewed some dietitians right when we first started. And we were talking about intuitive eating. I've never heard of it before. Talking about just like they hate dieting. And when you start looking at the statistics, like a real crash diet, it doesn't work. Like you'll lose weight, cool. You'll get your summer body, but most people just gain it right back.
Mm-hmm.
And so the people that make the adjustment over the course of 3-4 years are going to keep that probably more so for the rest of their life than the person that just gets the gratitude after 6 months.
Take us through your journey in school. You mentioned how you started this program. Were you into fitness and men's health on your journey through middle school, through high school? Was it something that you were intrigued by, that you just continued on your journey, or did you struggle with it and then it became something that you were fascinated with after the fact?
So always loosely, I've been into being healthy. I played baseball till I was probably like 23 or 24. So I played in college. You have to be pretty healthy. You have to watch what you eat and exercise very regularly. So yes. And then after that, no. At times, yes. Definitely up and down, just depending on everything. I realize I'm taking a lot of my past experiences and put them into men's health, of being stressed and eating or drinking too much. God knows I love to party. Anybody that knows me listens to this, they're like, that guy loves to fucking party. So taking all those experience and understanding that maybe they weren't so healthy, but I did learn from them. And then getting into pharmacy school, seeing how much prevention was really being taught and obviously, yes, we're in pharmacy school. They're teaching us the medications, but we weren't getting the prevention talk. I know med school students don't get hardly any nutrition discussion. So you have all these healthcare professionals that are just saying diet and exercise and might not really even know.
Such an interesting way that it meets for you, right? So you have this pharmacy school where it is more around, medication that you can give to someone that will help them, in whatever area that they need assistance in, but also the preventative piece and the maintenance piece that you have at the same time. It's such an interesting dichotomy, the two, that you have working in unison right now. I know that there's a lot of, talk around, even in the United States, we're like one of the only countries that advertise for prescription medication. Is that correct? That the United States is one of the only ones?
I think we're the only country in the world that is legally allowed to advertise medications. I have my own thoughts on that. Like, I think there's a great place for a lot of pharmaceuticals. There's some awesome drugs out there that you'd blow your mind how good a relief people get off of, right? But then there's also some real shit drugs out there that make people feel like crap. And in some cases, somebody might not have a choice of taking that drug. Like if somebody has cancer, they have to take the cancer drug. It's going to make them feel like shit. Like there's just no way around it. But then there's other drugs that slowly can cause depression, make you gain weight, make you lose your sex drive as a side effect, not as the desired effect, right? So at what point in time do we make the decision, maybe we're not going to get up and go for a walk or whatever, or eat a little bit better and go to the gym, do all these things that make us whole people. And we're just all right, I'm going to make this sacrifice. keep eating like shit, not exercising, not going outside and getting that good vitamin D. And then I'm just going to take this pill and it's going to make me feel bad, but at least I won't die, I guess. So I kind of have that weird feeling about, it's like, it can help. How much are you willing to do the side effects? So I just like sit there and I love learning about the drugs. I think it's really interesting, but I just feel like there's another way. We spend the most money, I think, in the world on healthcare. All the numbers are pointing there. So I just feel like, I guess to round this whole up is, I feel like everybody's prescribe. I feel like the pharmacist's role and responsibility could potentially be, maybe you don't need these, we'll take these away from you, because we don't get reimbursed. The pharmacist really doesn't have skin in the game. You get a decent salary, but like, you can't bill. So why not just sit there and be like, no, we're not going to give you this. You need to try something else. As
a quick aside, just to go a little bit deeper into that role that you have as with pharmacy school, and if you were in a situation where you know a little bit about the patient and a doctor's prescribing something that you're like, this is not the right medication, or this is something that could potentially have some harmful side effects to you, how do you handle a situation like that? Like, what is your role there? How would you navigate something like that?
A pharmacist's role right there would definitely be to intervene. It depends on what the drug is, and it's kind of like risk benefit too, right? Sometimes doctors prescribe things that don't work well together, or there's a new medication. Sometimes they skip steps in the algorithm. There's all kind of things that happen. But then a lot of this is regulated by the insurance companies and what they want to pay for as well. It's not just like, hey, that doesn't work, choose this, because you're also navigating the third party insurance company. Right.
There's that whole moral part of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's that whole moral part.
Sounds exhausting, yeah.
It's crazy. When you think, I know for a fact that there's this person who's really sick and is challenged with this disease or this affliction, and I know there's something here that would really help them out, yet financially they're unable to do it. That's a tough thing, right?
I just love what you said about the balancing between the two, of kind of not using the drug as a crutch, essentially, where you're just leaning on this and you're going to continue with the lifestyle that brought you there, essentially, versus doing X, Y, and Z and then using this to get you to that next point, but you're also doing all this back end stuff on top of that. I think that that's such an important point that you brought across there.
100%. This has kind of like been my shtick lately, because I feel like at least one of these three statistics will shock somebody. Hopefully your listeners are like, one of these three, they'll be like, oh shit. So number one, 75% of suicides are guys. Number two, erectile dysfunction is actually, unless it's like a psychological or partner thing, if it's just like erectile dysfunction, guy in his 50s might have an issue with their heart. Like, a very good possibility it's a precursor to heart disease, just because vasculature in your heart, very similar to your penis. And if one's clogged, the other one is probably clogging. Number three, I think over 55% of men over fucking 20 years old have high blood pressure. So that's like, I would say over 120, you're starting to, depending on your age, but probably over 130, definitely you have high blood pressure. So, and that's a huge precursor to heart disease. I'm a big heart guy because my dad died of a heart attack and his did too. So I feel like, yes, the medication's great. It can hold you off from having a significant event. The problem is that once you have the significant event, your chances of having another, like cardiovascular, heart attack, stroke, all that good stuff, goes up significantly. So that's where it's really important to prevent the first one. And that's where that lifestyle really comes into play. And I get it down to where we look up fruits and vegetables in different qualities. Like tomatoes, the lycopene in tomatoes is apparently said to prevent prostate cancer. The societies in the world that eat a lot of tomatoes have way less prostate cancer rates. So they're kind of finding association there. What's another fun one? Flax seeds, also great for the prostate. Beets, great for blood flow, if you know what I mean.
Oh, beets.
You writing this down, dude? Let's
Yeah,
fucking.
beets.
Okay, write this down. Celery, excellent for blood flow. And watermelon. Pineapple, if you want to be a gentleman.
Oh yeah.
We know where you're going with that, Patrick. So it's funny. I brought a beet, watermelon, celery sandwich.
Yeah.
If you want to bite.
I would love that. Sprinkle some flax seeds on there. You got yourself a deal.
That's it.
Let's go.
So, I mean, there's some good veggies in there that can really help if hopefully your listeners like vegetables. If not, give those a try for a couple of weeks and give me a call back.
And you don't even have to use your hands to dial the phone after a couple weeks,
right.
if you know what I mean there, too. So, Patrick, take us through, pick one of the three. So 75% of suicides are men. The number 2 is the erectile dysfunction and the correlation with heart health. And then the third one was the high blood pressure. If you were to pick one and say, here are a couple steps that you can use based on, my journey in holistic health and through Men's Health Unscripted, that you can give, a couple steps that we might be able to put in place to help us in one of those 3 areas.
Oh, that's tough. That's a great question. I would have to go with the 75% of guys are suicides. Just because I think, not to be sexist here, but like guys do have, there's just a higher percentage of guys that are in like high stress jobs, I think. I don't think it's much, and I know the gap is closing, which is awesome. But at the same time, I also think that guys and their lack of ability to discuss what is bothering them, holding things up inside, also adds to the stress. So back on the erectile dysfunction, because I love to talk about dicks. I don't know what it is. So back on that, like let's say you have a guy in a relationship and he has ED. Well, instead of coming out and saying it, he just gets really hard on himself. So now maybe does he take that out on his wife? Like, ignore her or treat her bad because he feels inferior? Does he take it out on the kids? Does he take it to or from work? So I think like just one thing like that, one health problem that is, I mean, we're guys, like our sex drive is our life. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that, not like, we're a bunch of horny perverts, but like just that testosterone and that, that's like our life force, I think. And when you take that away and you emasculate someone to a degree, or at least they feel emasculated. I'm not saying anybody's emasculine. But you take that away and it's like, where do they go to discuss that? And then if they don't know where to get treatment, then it stays and it builds. So I think suicides can come from a lot of those places. And then on top of that, just underlying depression that no one talks about. And then the next thing you know, you're impacted by suicide.
It's interesting that you mentioned that, with erectile dysfunction and not discussing it. So if there's that lack of communication, and there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that if you're struggling with that, you feel this, I am not the same man that I used to be because of this issue that I'm experiencing right now. And if you're not speaking to your partner about it, then it almost becomes you're using other mechanisms to cope, and one of them might be to push them away. Like, I'm not even going to try. I'm not.
And they don't even know that what you're
exactly.
going through. So they assume that you're just pushing them away because you're pissed off. And sometimes it'll come out in anger, come out in being, that emotion because you don't know how to express it any other way. And you're too scared to talk about it. So like having awareness about that is such a huge step in the right direction. And it's like, I can't even imagine how many people are going through that. And I just know that a lot of it also has to do with the emotional side of it, of not feeling comfortable. And maybe that happens one time and then it happens every time because you're thinking about that happening again. And then that just domino effects into every other aspect of your life after that. Because again, as guys, it's like we pride ourselves on that. That's such a big part of who we are. And even just like shooting the shit with friends, it's like you're sitting there and like...
To that point, what percentage of it do you think, I don't even know if percentage is the right way to frame it, but you mentioned that there might be a blood flow issue that once you're over a certain age, and how much of it is, it's a psychological thing where your mind is in, your dick is like, it's connected to your mind and what I'm thinking. And now if I'm thinking, oh shit, I couldn't get hard yesterday.
I'm not hard. Oh my God.
It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy that you go through because it's in your head now. So how much of it is in our heads?
I think at any given time, it can be any of it. I know that's probably like that might be a shitty answer, but it can be psychological. Again, bringing stress home from work or bringing outside whatever financial stress or whatever the case may be, bringing that home with you, because stress, I mean, you can get erectile dysfunction from stress. You can, like, it can come from lack of blood flow. It can come from the medication you're taking. It can come from low testosterone. And so there's so many things that go into it. I mean, I just listed off like 4 or 5 things, right, that can potentially cause ED. So if you're not vigilant on saying, hey, this is a problem, you'll never solve it, and it will just compound.
And when you're thinking that could be a million different things that are contributing, and if we're not talking about them, it makes it even worse, because then we're pushing it down and we're saying, whatever it is, it's not going away. We're putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. That's not going to fix the problem. We need to figure out what it is and then dive deep into that area. But I think the first piece is, and what you're doing is you're creating a forum to talk about it. You're normalizing that conversation, where you mentioned Betty Ford talked about, she said breasts for the first time. I mean, you're saying, let's just put this shit out on the table. Here's my red rocket. We're going to talk about it right now.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen our logo, but it definitely looks like a microphone and headset, right?
Oh, it does. Yeah, there's definitely some phallic innuendos with what you're doing there.
It's beautiful.
Intentionally.
Yeah.
You guys don't hang your microphones or your headsets on your microphone when you're done?
Oh, yeah.
I put it down my pants. That's what I typically do as where it goes. All right, so now we're we've did a deep dive into beets, into celery, into flavor profiles with watermelons and pineapples, but I'm still interested in that holistic portion now. So we have the pharmacological, if I'm saying that correct, and the holistic portion of it. Talk to us now about how you take this idea of holistic health and get people involved in your community. A lot of what you do is this community approach. So now you have this background in the medication part of it. You're doing this holistic thing. How do you bring people into your community? What's your strategy?
So honestly, I trick them.
Listen,
I don't tell you, hey, come learn about eating celery, because you might not show up. And I don't tell you, hey, come learn about these drugs, because you might not show up. But I offer something really fun to do. And then there might be like some stuff given away by local businesses, or we, write little notes in a goodie bag with some stuff. So we kind of incentivize you to show up, and then do some really fun things. So we'll play bingo if the fun police aren't shutting us down, or we'll go kayaking. We go for walks on the Riverwalk. We just go do activities in town, and we invite everybody. Like we encourage girls to bring their brothers, boyfriends, dads, husbands. We encourage girls to bring the guy in their life, because usually a lot of cases, the guys that have come is like, my girlfriend made me. It's like, perfect. We're glad you're here. And so we encourage all that. So we'll trick them. We'll make you come to yoga, and we won't tell you it's hot yoga. We'll just throw you in a room and make you sweat your balls off. So we just kind of do things like that, where we attract people that want to just do something fun, and then you just kind of teach them something, and they really seem to like it, because, as you know, as a school administrator, wagging your finger at somebody it's not really the way to get somebody to learn or to give a shit about what you're talking about.
So this is based, you're in Florida, correct?
Yes, sir. Tampa, Florida.
So I'm almost thinking that do you live stream these events? I mean, I'm almost thinking, like, how can we make your reach even further? I mean, obviously through this podcast, we can definitely get the message out there, but making it more of an event where it doesn't necessarily have to be geographical in nature, where it's more of a nationwide community feel, and something like this should be in every single area everywhere. I mean, it's something that's universal in nature. It should be, it shouldn't be based just in Florida. We need to get this message out there to more areas, more individuals.
100%. I will say my major inhibiting factor right now is I'm in my last year of pharmacy school. So I do have to contribute 40 plus hours a week to that. So that's like really just, kicking me in the dick right now, but I do love it. I am learning a lot, but my ideas are, you kind of just gave me a really good idea, but I wanted to like take my show on the road, like wrestling, and just go city to city. Men's Health ended up.
So 2 things I need to say. We just broke the record for the number of times saying dick on the Building Men podcast. It was 2 before, and now it's
let's
3.
go.
And now
Thank
it's
you, Patrick.
more. And now we're even. Every time we say it now.
I love it.
What do you love?
Dick. That's right.
And then the second thing is we just had a conversation. I don't know if you're a wrestling fan or not. We had a conversation about the old, and I did this in college as a baseball player too. The consequence for something was a backhanded chest slap. That's where like when the guys, it was like Ric Flair would stand in the center of the ring, and it was a backhanded chest slap. That was the consequence right there.
Slap you right, and then you, of course, innovated that to his younger brother who would fuck up.
Oh,
and he'd go and just.
There's a lot of chest slapping between the two of us. It just brought me back down memory lane with that idea of the wrestling taking it on the road.
Yeah, I do love me some pro wrestling, to be honest with you.
I mean, I could tell. There's something about you that screams WWE, WWF right now. Loving it. So I love the idea of taking it on the road because I do believe that this is something that should be more normalized. This should be something that we are comfortable in that uncomfortable space talking about shit that we're all thinking about. There's just not a space for us to go ahead and do it. So through the Building Men podcast, we would love to be able to support you on this journey, even if it's just, finding spaces. We're in, Northeast, we're in central New Jersey, but there's a couple different metropolitan areas
promoting it. And I also love the idea of kind of giving them what they want to get them what they need out of it, right? So however the hell you get them in the door, that's whatever, but then that they're going to benefit from that. The hardest part is just kind of getting them to dive in. You can't just immediately say you're drinking celery juice and doing fucking hot yoga, because most guys are going to be like, yeah, screw that. I'm not fucking going. Right. So, but I love it. I really think that that's so beneficial and that's so important for men to understand and to have that space, and the amount of lives that you're probably saving from them just being able to speak about that, and talk about it and be emotional and go outside their comfort zone.
Absolutely. I just I think the way I kind of thought of it is like, okay, what are the things I really like doing that are really good? And I like going kayaking. I like going for walks with my dog. I like playing bingo. I do like drinking beer. Sometimes you have to meet people in the middle, and it's like, hey, come to this bar and play trivia with us. And so we did like a regular trivia game, and then every other round was Men's Health facts. And so you won some prizes when you win trivia, top 3 teams, and then the Men's Health facts are worth more. And so that was kind of something that we like doing. So you can meet people in the middle, because I'm not going to be the one that sits here and I guess says you need to go change your whole life, because it's not really realistic. But what I can do is be like, hey, these are some statistics in trivia, like I'll do in trivia, these are some statistics. Oh, in the next round of trivia, it's weird, we have the solutions to some of those problems, right? So you learn passively, and then you might go home and think about it. And if nothing happens, you had a good time, and you might come back just for that.
And you're creating a community. You're giving people an opportunity to understand this, this journey that they're on, and you're creating this community of people that are learning something together. I wholeheartedly believe that learning happens best when it's done in a supportive community, where you don't feel like you're out there on an island, that you're going through the same journey with other people that might have the same ideas as you, or same experiences, or even contrary beliefs, but you're still going through that same experience at the same time. That's where true learning, in my opinion, would happen. And to that point, thinking about learning, one thing that I love about what you're doing as well, Patrick, is you're interviewing people on your podcast, and you're learning along on this journey as well. So you're interviewing doctors, you're interviewing different, where you're like, tell me more about low testosterone, tell me more about medication, or like healthy habits that I can have. So if you were to tell us 2 or 3 lessons that you've learned in your experience as a podcast host now interviewing people, what would those lessons be?
I think number one, like when you were asking that question, this is what immediately came to mind, was be vulnerable. And maybe not always. You don't have to just be like the most vulnerable person, like, oh God, like, let it all out there. But when you need to be vulnerable, it's okay to be vulnerable. I think that was the number one thing. I had some mentors and stuff tell me, like, dude, you're going to have to open this guy up and be a little bit more vulnerable if you want this to do well. So that 100%. You know what? We got an interesting fact. I've never forgot this one. We interviewed Dr. Joel Kahn. I don't know, like he was on Joe Rogan podcast. He's like a vegan cardiologist that does his own, I'm not pushing diet or anything on anybody, but he has his own like cardiology clinic, right? And he told us that in Michigan, he's also a professor, I think, at one of the universities in Michigan. And so he's like very prevention based, obviously a lot of vegetables kind of guy. But he said, if you see people and they get this, have you ever seen anybody with like that little crook in their ear where it's like your earlobe folds?
Yes.
So he said, like, it's not science or anything like that, but he's just like, in his experience and then what he's seen for practicing X amount of years, he's like, a lot of his heart patients had that little crick.
Huh.
And so, and he had talked to other colleagues, cardiologists and stuff that, so maybe be on the lookout for that. I don't know. Like, that's always stuck with me. It's been weird. So I check my ears every morning. Whew. And then the last, I have to pick a third one. Oh man, I've learned so much. Top 3. I'm sorry for taking so long.
No, it's all good. We provide wait time.
You know what? I would have to say we interviewed a lot of people that had prostate cancer. And I think their journey is like crazy because it's growing in steam, but just how they found out was nuts. It was never like, hey, I went to the doctor and got a prostate exam. It was like, hey, shout out to my man, Tom Keyburn. He's like, hey, I got in a motorcycle accident and hadn't been to the doctor in 20 years. And when I was in the hospital getting better, they ran a bunch of tests and found my PSA was high.
So I have such a connection to that. One of my friends, he was been on the podcast before, went through the same experience, and basically he was getting a hip replacement, getting the test done for a hip replacement, and he needed to get blood work done. It was through that blood work that they found out you have prostate cancer. And they never would have found it unless he was going through this hip replacement operation. And it changed his whole view on everything, his whole view on and it didn't come from him going to get a prostate exam. Yeah,
so I guess, the take home from that is like, go get it checked, guys. It's not the good old fashioned glove on. You can get a blood test and get a pretty good idea of what's going on. So just keep up with your regular blood test, your PSA stuff, and really over 40. It's really important, but I've heard so many stories of guys that are like, yeah, I just went to the doctor for something completely unrelated and I found out I had prostate cancer. So that tells me that there's a lot going unreported.
And Anthony, my younger brother, he volunteered to do a live prostate exam on the Building Men podcast for the first time ever. Yeah, did you agree to that?
I haven't yet, but we're gonna how to properly do a prostate exam.
The home prostate.
Yeah, that's right. That's gonna be fun.
Usually that's something you just do on your own, and now you can help other people.
Great. Any way to help. I'm just here to help. I'm a prop. Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely. So Patrick, tell us a little bit about your I'm thinking about your experience going from school to the working through pharmacy school, doing the Men's Health Unscripted. If you were to go back and create a course, so you can create a course for high school students, and this course would help them get kind of a ground, a base knowledge as they're graduating from high school. What would that course be? Like, I'm almost interested in what would I need to know as a 17, 18-year-old coming out of high school that would give me a solid foundation in men's health moving forward?
I think that would be probably like a whole curriculum worth of stuff. But
because there's nothing right now. There's really nothing.
Right, there isn't. So I guess what I would say is I would do a course on how to cook food. So if you cook, I cook a ton, and eating out, they put a lot of salt in food, and like it's there to be delicious. So and they don't really care. So maybe eating out less. So teaching guys how to cook food. I would really want guys to like learn how to tie a tie. I think that's really important because there's times where I still fumble with it. And then overall, I think the course would involve, and is kind of like after listening to something you said a few minutes ago about that group learning environment, I think it would probably have to be in small groups. Maybe you would 8 to 10 kids or 8 to 10 guys, because what I've noticed, especially in pharmacy school and like in places where you have to be a team, your teammates or your people try to lift you up, because I mean, it's really kind of true. You're only as strong as your weakest link. And so you can get, if the bottom's willing to work, you know what I mean? The weakest link's willing to work, you can bring that person up. So I think what that would teach kids is how to work with each other. And you see somebody struggling, don't be so like, oh, you're, I guess like you're a pussy or whatever, right? I guess that's what, I don't know if that's what kids say nowadays, but that's what we called each other when I was a kid. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But instead of, maybe taking that away a little bit and saying more like, well, how can I help you? Or just being thoughtful of other people. And, as you get older, because the high school, as you know, like that high school mentality only really lasts through high school. What are you going to do for the rest of your adult life, right? And if you still act like you're in high school when you're an adult, you're probably going to be screwed. So I think just teaching them how to work well in teams. I don't think enough people, like if you play high school sports, good, but if you don't play high school sports, like you don't know how to work as a team, you don't know how to lift up others, you don't know how to give a fuck, you know what I mean? So there's I think that would be it. So maybe like a team cooking class.
Love that.
that teaches people a little bit about life and eating right and exercising.
I think you're onto something there, just in the idea that you can take this healthy eating or, being able to, create something for yourself as far as nutrition is concerned. But then it's almost like weaving in the other example. So instead of bingo and this and that, they get to eat something that they created, but there's also the life lesson around how eating less salt is beneficial, how eating more beets will, what a great, thing for your future. When you
the idea of contribution too, right? That it boils down to contributing to something bigger than just you, which I feel like a lot of people lose that over time. They're just so solely focused on themselves, and all of a sudden life hits, and you lose that purpose in life, because I think purpose boils down a lot of times to contribution. Like, what can you contribute to your group, to your community, to your family, to your friends? So having that in there would be so beneficial to kids, and obviously learning cooking is fucking awesome, so.
I mean, cooking can serve you for a lot of things. Like if you have a cute girl that you like, if you cook for her, she might stick around.
I'll tell you what, that's like that. You want to like, I've realized I just started cooking within like, I cooked, but I knew like 3 meals. It was like, scrambled eggs and grilled cheese. And, but I started like cooking and actually learning how to cook, and going on a first date with someone and being like, oh, come over, I'll cook for you. That is like, first of all, I'm saving money. I know like the food that I'm eating is not going to be shit. And they're like blown away, because you make that plate look halfway decent. It's like, holy fuck, this guy knows what he's doing. He can cook. Hopefully his dick works.
Yeah. Every dessert is watermelon and pineapple.
That's right.
Every single time.
Hey, now, I just give her a wink halfway through. You know what I'm saying?
So, Patrick, tell the Building Men audience where they can find you, how they can get in touch with you and Men's Health Unscripted.
So www.menshealthunscripted.com is the website. And we're probably most active on the Instagram by the same name, @menshealthunscripted. We have Twitter, but sometimes it's just me talking about wrestling. So if you want to talk about wrestling, find me on there. If you want to troll me on there, I will gladly oblige you as well. And YouTube, we're actively working on growing that community as well. So you can find us on YouTube for a lot of neat little clips and things that we're working on as well. So those are probably the main ways.
So Patrick Alonso, thank you so much for being on the Building Men podcast. I know I've learned a lot during this the last hour or so that we've had an opportunity to connect and to bullshit a little bit. We would love to support you in any way, shape, or form. I mean, obviously with Building Men, we're trying to figure out ways to help men become the best versions of themselves across the board, and a lot of that is that whole holistic health that you spoke about. So anything that we can do to support you along your journey, we'd be happy to do so.
Absolutely. I really appreciate it, and same to you. And I know we're going to kind of riff it again, maybe here in a little bit on ours. Because I know I talked to you a little bit about Building Men and how you got started. I'm really, excited about hearing that full journey. What you're doing is great, man. I mean, it's just like, I love it because I've done a lot of different things, like coaching kids and all that kind of stuff, and just hearing your journey, I'm excited to really dive into that with you. So thank you guys for having me on. It's really been a lot of fun and got a lot of laughs. So thank you.
Oh, absolutely. It's our pleasure. We'll do this again in the future. And along the way, we'll keep in touch, and we'll support each other on each other's journey.
Hell yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
On Building Men, don't forget, go a step further than you thought you could go today. We appreciate Men's Health Unscripted and Patrick Alonso for joining us today, and we will see you next time on Building Men.